Did the Phillies win last night? Spoiler alert, yes, they did. There's a lot of good that I want to get out and talk about from last night's Phillies game. There's still problems with this Philadelphia Phillies baseball team, but there's definitely some good as well. What about that ballpark? We're going to talk about that. Join us 30 minutes from now from Delaware News Journal, Martin Frank, Eagles beat reporter, talking Eagles, and also a big trade in the NFC East that just went down this morning. We don't even have the full details on it just yet. So trending in the AM, we are live, taking all your thoughts and opinions on the Phillies, the Eagles, the Cowboys' big trade, and more in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome all to Trending in the AM right here on the STT Sports Network. We are live, YouTube, Twitter. Guys, make sure you do me a favor. Hit that like button, hit that share button, of course. Hit subscribe on this YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you doing your part to help grow this channel and help grow this great morning show. So, again, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button. It's free to do. Don't cost you a thing. Guys, I'm your host, Phil Stiefel. We got a jam-packed show today. Talking Phillies 8-4 victory over the Tampa Bay Rays last night. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's mostly good, some great, and a little bit of fear still in the Phillies baseball team. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Dave Dombrowski a little bit as well. Obviously, big breaking news in the NFL just not even 30 minutes ago. Dallas Cowboys acquired George Pickens, wide receiver from the Pittsburgh Steelers. A, not sure why, but B, it's just a very interesting thing. But what does it mean for our Philadelphia Eagles? We'll talk about that as well. And, of course, 8:30 this morning, the great Martin Frank, Delaware News Journal, will be joining us to talk Eagles, talk this big shakeup at the wide receiver position in the NFC East. So we'll talk with him in about 30 minutes about all things going on with the Eagles and the NFL. So we got to talk about it all. We're going to cover it all today, guys. And who knows what else will come up in the conversation. But, we'll see. It's a Tuesday. Tuesdays are typically pretty mild, around these parts with the comments. So we'll see what goes on. What's up, Steven? First comment of the day is in from Steve. Is it a coincidence Bohm hits his first home run in a minor league park? Pickens being traded to Dallas is a match made in heaven. Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of totally forgot about the whole, baseball stadium thing from Tampa till last night. I'm like, where the hell are they playing? And before I Googled, I'm like, oh, that's right. The stadium issue with the hurricane and the damage that they took. Totally forgot all about that, Steven. And the Pickens trade doesn't make sense for either the Steelers or Dallas. And maybe it makes total sense for both. I don't even know how to comprehend it. I hear there's a rumor it's a third-round pick involved with some pick swaps. We're going to get into that throughout the morning for sure. I'm sure it's going to be dominating the headlines. Good morning, Duck. Captain Planet, he's a zero. Gonna bring freedom down to zero. We're spitting rhymes early. Good morning, Adam. Is it? Today's Wednesday, not Tuesday. I thought today was Tuesday for a second. Jeez, we are halfway through the week. Oh my God, man. What's up, Adam? Hope you're doing well this morning. Mikey B, how you doing? I'm not scared of Dallas as long as Dak is under center and Jones is alive and kicking. Yeah, giving up a third for Pickens, who needs a contract extension. When you're already cap strapped beyond belief with other guys like Micah Parsons that need big deals. I don't know what Dallas is thinking of bringing in, George Pickens. I know you're talking about bringing in another weapon for your offense, which in theory sounds great. But on the flip side, why would you bring in a weapon that needs to get paid and a fairly hefty thing? I also think that George Pickens might be slightly overrated. He's a really good wide receiver, but he's not an elite wide receiver. He's a good number two. And I think that is something that he's going to want to be paid by like a one. He's going to be Dallas's two, obviously, behind CD. But how's he going to get paid? And how are they going to afford to pay him? But as long as Jerry Jones is kicking and running that team, they're going to make dumb, boneheaded decisions. How about the other 60 home runs Bohm has hit Oh, come on. It was a joke. And obviously, maybe the home run derby is part of the issue that Alec Boehm has, because it's happened, Rick, to a lot of players that they go in the home run derby and then they struggle afterwards. Eagles wrecked, Cowboys get Pickens. Yeah. I'm really scared about George Pickens. Oh, no. Oh, no. Pittsburgh willingness to let him go is a red flag. They just bring in DK Metcalf. They still don't have a quarterback. And then they trade Pickens. Pickens has been a problem in Pittsburgh for a while now. A lot of wide receivers seem to be problems when they come out of Pittsburgh. So I don't know what Pittsburgh's doing and their thought process. I don't know what Dallas's thought process is. Like, this trade doesn't make sense for either team. Now, we only know so far, and it's not even confirmed, that there's a third-round pick going back to Pittsburgh, which I think is actually a pretty hefty price to pay for Pickens, considering you got to give him a contract. You got to pay him as well. It's interesting. Dallas always likes bringing in low character. Rick, we will agree on that. I don't know if George Pickens is a low character person. I think his ego doesn't match his skill set. Does that make sense, Rick? Like, he thinks he's a top 5 wide receiver in football. He acts and talks like he is. In reality, what is he? Top 25, top 30? I mean, I pulled up his stat sheet over the last couple of years. Obviously, his second year, 2023, was his best, with 63 catches, just over 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns. Obviously, could stretch the field. He had 18.1 yards per catch that year. But he's got 12 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Is that elite? 63 catches is the most he's seen. And we're talking, it's not like he didn't get a lot of targets. Last year, he had 59 catches. He had over 100 targets last year. So he's got like a 55% catch percent, I guess is the way I'm saying it. Like, is George Pickens really as good as he thinks he is, as some people think he is? At best, he's a number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's got the skill set to be a number 1. Maybe because of his ego. Maybe because he doesn't know how to swallow his pride and be, that guy that, is humble. I don't know. It's interesting. I find it interesting. I'm not worried about it for the Eagles. In fact, I kind of feel like it's good for the Eagles that Pickens is going there. Our secondary is obviously great with Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. I'm not worried about stopping CD and Pickens there with our 2 cornerbacks. I think it helps the Eagles because, financially speaking, it's going to make business for the Cowboys going forward much more difficult because, again, they've got to pay Pickens. And Pickens is going to want big-time money. What did Brandon Ayuk get late last offseason? Like 4 years, $120 million or something like that? Pickens believes he's on at least Brandon Ayuk's level. And that's a problem. He's going to want to get paid. Brandon Ayuk was the number 2 receiver in San Fran last year and got paid big. He's going to expect that. Where's Dallas find that money? I mean, they've already paid CD and Dak a boatload. Micah is due big money. I don't know how you do it. I don't know their cap situation per se, but it seems like a not ideal situation for Dallas, which makes it a great situation for the Eagles. Plus, they gave up a 3rd-round pick. Is anybody else offering them a 3rd-round pick? My guess is no. Pickens is a decent wide receiver, too. The problem is he thinks he's wide receiver 1. Plus, he's going to expect to get paid. Is Pittsburgh trying to tank this year, or is Pickens that much of a problem? So on the Pittsburgh side first, Peanut, I think both. I think they're trying to tank a little bit, but also Pickens is a big problem. But on the first part, yeah, I agree. He's a number 2. He's not even the best number 2. That would be Devontae Smith as the best number 2 in football, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what to even think of that. Pickens is no A.J. Brown. He ain't no Devontae Smith. Is he even in a top 25 of wide receivers in the NFL at this point? Probably not. I knew what you meant. It's all good. Pickens is more like Goddard. He is talented, but has an availability problem. I mean, yeah, he played 14 games only last year. he did play a full 17-game season, both his first and second year in the league. Last year was the first time he missed games. He missed 3 games, Duck. Yeah, I can see a little bit of that maybe starting to form. Pickens is just the type of head case that Dallas loves to have. He thinks he's Ocho Cinco, but he's TJ Huzmanzada. Hold on. I haven't said this name in a while. He thinks he's Ocho Cinco, but TJ Huzmanzada. Is that how you say it? I forget. I used to say TJ, who's your daddy? Is it TJ, who's your daddy, or TJ Huzmanzada? Hey, Huzmanzada had one or two good years, really good years in Cincinnati. I believe it was Cincinnati. So let's not dock him. Yes, Jonathan, we've heard the news. We've heard the George Pickens news happened just before going live. We're still waiting for the full trade details. I know there's a report that there's a third-round pick involved. But, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Just tuning in and see. Yeah, we got a lot of Phillies on the agenda. We got a great guest joining us in about 20 minutes here, Jonathan. So there's lots to discuss today. But, obviously, the Pickens going to the Cowboys because it directly affects the Eagles is obviously the jumping-off point today. A+ for Fuentes for spelling. I guarantee he had to Google that. And you had to Google, Mike, to see if he did spell it right. Because nobody knows how to spell who's your daddy. Got to be careful of the way Pickens tore us apart last year now with the elite Dallas quarterback. I mean, yeah. I was like reading this, and I'm like, what? I was still giggling. Gotcha. Look, there's a lot of great wide receiver duos. And look, and I'm busting on Pickens and the Cowboys and the situation, but Pickens and CeeDee Lamb instantly vault up into the top 10 wide receiver duos in football. The problem is we have the best wide receiver duo in football, obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. But the thing that it doesn't scare me when we go up against teams with great wide receiver duos is Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Maybe Keely Ringo too. We'll see. When you have an elite cornerback duo, that directly counters the wide receivers. But, I mean, you think about it. You have Cincinnati has a great wide receiver duo. We do. The Cowboys do. Maybe Washington does if Deebo Samuels is healthy this year. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens on paper are a top 5 or 10 wide receiver duo in football. And I guarantee some big social media account like FanDuel Sportsbook that's run by like 12-year-olds will put out a graphic today. They probably already have it put out there about saying how nobody's going to stop this offense or the greatest wide receiver duo of all time. They'll have some stupid headline like that. They might actually do 2, one of each. So we'll see. Well, good morning, Joe. How you doing this morning? Lots on the docket today. Heading to the Truist tomorrow. Glad to see the top players. I missed last night's show. Who do you like this week at the Truist? Jordan Spieth, my guy. Jordan Spieth actually played really good golf the last month and a half of the season. Love Jordan Spieth this week on this course. His creativity, his off-the-tee game. I'm a Jordan Spieth guy this week. Fleetwood as well. Andrew Novak, not bad. Rory, for some reason, is the guy I don't like this week, Joe. So I think, as we said, go ahead and listen to it. Steven in the chat had a great point, and Jason as well, about how his one thing that he puts him ahead, Rory McIlroy, from the rest of the crowd is his distance, and distance is mitigated this week. So we're all off on Rory McIlroy this week. Yeah, you did. I don't have time to spell check, so I'm not going to spell check. I'm just going to call him. Am I close? I think I'm saying it right. TJ Huzmanzada, right? Isn't that it? TJ Huzmanzada. But I used to say, TJ, who's your daddy? Dotson. You know, that thought did pop into my head, Showboats. We call you mid-Showboats now. Pickens it might not even be as good as Jahan Dotson. Maybe. It's actually not as crazy of a thing to say. Definitely not crazy. Because Dotson doesn't put up the numbers doesn't mean he's not a great wide receiver. He doesn't put up the numbers because he's got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. When he was on the Commanders, he was putting up big numbers. So, yeah, who cares, right? Who's here is who's here. I don't know who the new Pope is going to be yet. Did you watch Conclave yet? Yeah, I'm doing it. You want me to do a live Conclave stream for every Pope vote? That would be an interesting one right there. Drew Kendall, Miles Hinton, Cam Williams, Hollis Pierce. Eagles O-line depth has gotten even bigger, stronger, deeper. We'll talk with this. We'll talk to Martin Frank about this because there were some reports from rookie minicamp from the day that was actually out there that Drew Kendall, who played center in the rookie minicamp, is kind of a sneaky play at right guard as well. So we'll get some information from Martin Frank about what his thoughts are on these 4 new offensive linemen, who's going to make the biggest impact short-term and long-term for sure. Dotson's on a contract year 2. Big season. Mike, I know you don't always have the time to tune in regularly, but I did make a point of talking this week, Mike, or last week, 2 weeks ago, that maybe he's a sneaky trade candidate, honestly. I mean, we lack depth at wide receiver, but he's a stud young wide receiver. He is not going to get the touches he deserves here. Can you flip him for a 3rd-round pick or something like that? Would it be worth doing it and then going out there and finding a cheap veteran to be your number 3? Amari Cooper's out there, somebody like that. We'll see. I think the Eagles are going to pass a little bit more this year than in years past. It's just the gut feeling I have right now. I know this is unpopular, but Dak going to put up some high regular season stats. We can't just discount that. This move going to be a problem. I agree. I said it last week, Peanut, that the Cowboys are, just by default, are better than their record was last year. That the Cowboys are going to be better. Now, will they be 10, 11, 12 wins better? I don't know. But Dak is a solid quarterback. You've added another weapon. Their defense and offensive line got better. It is what it is. The Eagles just have the pieces to slow them down. They're just not on the level of the Eagles yet at this point. You watched Conclave. Good. Pretty good. I was enthralled by it. I love that religious stuff like that. Drew Kendall and Miles Hinton both had fathers that were great NFL players. Yeah, you do love the pedigree, so to speak. Conclave is great. I didn't know there was a beer called Conclave. I'll have to look that one up. Dallas will shit the bed like they always do. That's what they do. I mean, the Cowboys have made the playoffs in the last dozen years plenty of times. Dallas is not a good organization. They're not a well-run organization. But Dallas has years where they spike because Jerry Jones makes big splashy moves. So I'm not completely writing the Cowboys off this year. I still think they're the 3rd best team in the division behind the Eagles and the Commanders. But in my mind, and I don't know the schedule, and I won't make these predictions till September, but you're in the ballpark of saying the Eagles are going to win like 12 games. The Commanders are going to win like 11. The Cowboys can easily win 9 or 10 games this year and be a wild card team. They have the talent on their team. They just have Jerry Jones. That's the problem. Dak is always a problem in the regular season. It isn't until the playoffs. Yeah, it's not until the playoffs or big games. Good morning, Freddie. How you doing this morning? It's the big games in the playoffs when he collapses. Pickens versus Rager. Yeah, Pickens is better than Jalen Rager. Nice try to get me to rip Jalen Rager. Fact check. Cowboys did not get better. They lost talent on D-line and running back to Panthers and drafted a guard. But drafting a guard is fundamentally what you do. You build your offensive line to protect your quarterback. Dallas on a downward decline. It may be the case, Rick. Maybe I'm giving the Cowboys too much credit. I'm not trying to give them credit. I'm trying to respect my opponent is basically what I'm trying to do. I will downplay Dallas until they prove themselves. Dallas always shows something against the lesser teams and they fall apart. Yeah, the terrible culture part, absolutely. Obviously, a new coach. We'll see. There'll always be that early season game where they put up 45 points against the Carolina Panthers. And then everyone's like, oh, the Cowboys, number 1 team in America. Great, blah, blah, blah. And then they go up against even a mid-level team and shit the bed. Yes, that is what the Cowboys' MO is. I get it. I know it. But again, maybe it's just me because I actually have always been a Dak Prescott fan to an extent. When he came out of the draft, I wanted the Eagles to draft him. I forget what year. Was that the Nick Foles year? I forget what year it was. I wanted Dak Prescott on the Eagles. I did. I liked his game coming out of college. He's just in a terrible situation. I think Dak Prescott in a mid-level market team would be a well-liked quarterback in the NFL. Theory. Well, we'll see though. We'll see. Dallas' new head coach is is the new coach type. Very possible. Very possible. Very possible. It very, 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 very much so is. It's like the Cowboys drive an 86 Toyota hatchback, and every year they go to an expensive junkyard for some chrome rims. They don't even get the chrome rims, Peanut. They go to the local Kmart to buy the plastic rims that look shiny, but really are plastic for $12.99. That's what they do. The plastic hubcaps that look like chrome. That's what the Cowboys do, right? I know I did that with my first car. I know my first car, my 83 Buick Century, I went to the Kmart, bought some plastic rim covers, hubcap rim covers that looked shiny and made my piece of you-know-what look a lot better than it was. I'm sure Dak is saying there'll be Super Bowl this with getting Pickens. You know what, though? I don't fault somebody like Dak if he goes out and says they're going to be Super Bowl. Now, it's delusional to us. But do you want your quarterback to go out there and say, we're still not that good? We're still got to be better? Like, I want my quarterback to be positive and to be confident. I mean, it's kind of what you need, Adam. The opposite is not good. Dallas, like, MVP O-line, dude retired. Yeah, and that's why you went out and got Booker, the guard. You think Prescott would have won a Super Bowl if he was with the Eagles? Probably not. Well, his whole career, maybe. Because the whole, era of Eagles football would have changed. But if he was on the team last year, maybe not. 2017, probably not. But Dak Prescott's a solid 12 through 15 quarterback in the NFL. I will start working on my quarterback rankings, and just like last summer, we'll do a day-by-day reveal of like 3 or 4 quarterbacks on the list, just like last year. I'm not a fan of Dak at all. Guy comes up small in big games. Cowboys have had some stacked offenses, and Dak has never been able to elevate them. I don't think they've had as stacked of a team as you believe they do, Anthony. I think they got a lot of mixed, matched parts that don't fit together. When you build a team, you can't just sign every big name, trade for every big name. You got to have parts that fit together. And they realize they try to make Dak a gunslinger when in reality, Dak is a game manager, a really good game manager. But he's always put to be this gunslinger that he's not. Peanut always does good stuff. The Cowboys' problem is not the engine or the quality of the general build. It's the ECU problem for the car people. The brain electronics fail them. Yeah, I could see that analogy. Phil, Shine Up POS was what up in yeah, dude, absolutely. I destroyed that 83 Buick Century too. Not my fault. Got destroyed in an accident. Like, can't believe I lived through the accident, but hey, it was my first car. Everybody remembers their first car. Mine, for sure. Rusted out 83 Buick Century. Are you allowed to call you Peanut? Everybody's allowed to call him Peanut. That's his name, Peanut. I make sure I know, Duck, you have, but everybody else, make sure you subscribe to Peanut's YouTube channel. It would be greatly appreciated. I think Dak is still overrated. They have some well-built teams. Dak doesn't win. Period. End of sentence. All right. Yeah, 5, fine. Peanut is what all my people. You have people. My people call me. I like that. This just in, the Cowboys signed Justin. Yeah, probably. That would be a great cultural decision right there, right? Yeah, I don't think the Cowboys are loaded, so to speak. 86 Dodge K car was my first destroyer. Yeah, I was on 202 coming back from high school. I went to Devon Prep down to the Unionville, Westchester area. I got sideswiped on 95, hit by like 5 different cars, destroyed. I drove that thing for 3 more months without the doors opening, climbing in and out of the windows like Dukes of Hazzard style. No lie. It ended up catching fire from all the damage. But, yeah, 83 Buick Century. My aunt basically handed it. It was an 83 Buick Century in 1996, and it only had 30,000 miles on it. In the first 6 months, I put 20 more thousand miles on it. Hence why it probably caught on fire, plus the accident. But, yeah, everybody loves their first car. Everybody remembers their first car. Phil's quietly added Daniel Robert, decent arm to add to the bullpen. Why did they move him right to AAA, though? That's always my question. Now they are not, but previously they were. 88 Maroon Ford Tempo. I remember Ford Tempos. That was a good. There's a good one. I guess I had the oldest first car in this group. 88. I didn't realize we were going to go on a car trip. I remember every car that I've ever had. Started with the 83 Buick Century. It was a silver car. Then I went to a 93 Plymouth Acclaim. My dad said, "How much money do you got for a new car?" I'm like, "I got $2,000 saved." He's like, "Give it to me." So I gave it to him. He came back an hour later with a Plymouth Acclaim. Don't know where it was. But my 80-year-old English teacher, Marty Bowen, that's a fond, healthy woman. drove the same exact car and color. So that tells you what a 93 Plymouth Acclaim was like for a high school kid to be driving. I think Justin Tucker is done in the NFL. You know what annoys me with the Justin Tucker situation, Duck, is how Adam Schefter tried to put such a positive spin. And same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. Look, you cut ties with them because of the allegations. We all know that. Everybody knows that. But why not, just say we've released him? You don't have to go out there and praise all his accolades, okay? You don't have to address the allegations either. You could just make a statement. We've made a business decision. We made a financial decision for the team to move on from our kicker. We drafted a new young guy. That's it. The way that the Ravens and also Adam Schefter handled the situation, and then 30, 40 minutes later, Adam Schefter was getting killed, so he went out there and put a follow-up about all the allegations into it. We're not stupid in this day and age. We know why you're getting rid of Justin Tucker. Move to AAA to get adjusted, probably. Yeah, maybe. My first was a Mercury Capri car knocked off of a Mustang. I remember the Mercuries. I do. First generation VW Passat bought at the Philly auto auction was my first car. Gotcha. So now I do have a kick out. Now, I finally have my dream car. I think about mid next week, we're about to hit a stretch of 7 straight sunny days. Top's coming off next week for a long stretch. Cannot wait. Nothing puts a smile on my face, Adam, more than driving around with the top off my Jeep. It just puts an instant smile on my face. So yeah, Buick Century 83, Plymouth Acclaim. Then I went to one of those generic Saturns that everybody had a lease of one of those for a few years. How I fit in that thing, I don't know. Then I went to a Toyota Solara. It was like the sports car version of Camry. I don't even know if they make the Solaras anymore. Then I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And then after Jeep Grand Cherokee, I had a Ford Explorer. Then after the Ford Explorer, I got my current Jeep. So that's all the cars I've owned. I went to buy my first car. Someone bought before I could, ends being my dad, and sells me his. Your dad screwed you. Hope you got revenge on him. In high school, my sister's boyfriend's dad owned a sports store. He owed my money. I see. From The Sopranos. My dad made his dad pay the debt by giving my sister's. I see what you're doing. I think this is from a episode of The Sopranos here. This is 100% from an episode of The Sopranos. I'm not that dumb. I picked up on any Sopranos reference. I pick up on like that. Hopefully the Flyers hire Sullivan, not Tocchet, but they'll probably shit the bed and hire. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You got a new Jeep or an old school. Now, I bought in 2021. I bought a brand new, had it custom made to my specifications. Jeep Wrangler. So 2021 Jeep Wrangler. Got it brand new. I think it had 9 miles on it when I rolled it off the lot, Duck. Got the color I wanted, the special, the upgraded soft top. Got the rims I wanted on it. Got it exactly made to my specs and what I wanted. Love my Jeep. Love my Wrangler. It was a dream to have one. And I have one now, so it's fantastic. Anyway, guys, you're watching Training the AM again. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, please. YMCA, please. We're talking obviously a lot about George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys here. Momentarily, we will have Martin Frank joining us here on the show. And obviously, the Phillies are on the agenda as well today, as another nice win last night for them against the Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah. All those things are on the docket. And, of course, cars. We're talking about first cars as well. Phil's a true story. Anyways, then my dad went boating with Paulie. Yeah, exactly. True story. You're basically just reciting an episode of The Sopranos, basically. Mike Sullivan signed with the Rangers as their head coach. Did he? I didn't even know Sullivan's first name was Mike. It's funny, from my earlier days in work, I worked with a Mike Sullivan. I wonder whatever happened to Mike Sullivan. He's definitely not the coach in the NHL there. So he signed there. Okay, so that's off the table. After the Pontiac, went Ford Explorer to Mustang. Wife got pregnant, sold it, and 2 more Explorers. I hated my Ford Explorer, Big Al. Hated it. I had so many electrical issues regularly. It was such a headache. My Ford Explorer, that I couldn't wait to get rid of it. My Ford Explorer had this really weird thing, Big Al. that would always go wrong with it. Basically, what would happen is every time I would drive by an airport, the power steering would fail. No lie. I would drive by an airport, it would go bing, 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 and it would just shut down the power steering. And I have to pull over, start the car, turn the car off, restart it, and it'd be fine again. And nobody could figure out why. Weirdest thing in the world. And as soon as that started happening, I thought it was just a weird coincidence. It happened like 20 times. It was definitely not a weird coincidence. It is what it is. But anyway, back to this. Let's get back on track. Let's get back to what we're covering here. The football and the baseball. A little bit of hockey. I'm shocked at how much, love the Flyers are getting in the chat over the last week or two. There's been a significant uptick in Flyers comments on the show. So much so that we got these little overlays here. I might have to make, like I got the green one, the red one, the blue one. I might actually have to make an orange overlay for when the Flyers come up so frequently in the conversation. Does anyone have an updated list of Flyers coaching candidates? I don't know. I'll write this down, and we'll put this on the agenda tomorrow. Flyers coaching candidates. I will do a research, and we will get into the other candidates that are being discussed tomorrow for sure. But guys, joining me right now on the I Have No Sponsor Highline, and guys, before you do it, like, share, subscribe. We got the great Martin Frank, Delaware News Journal. Good morning, Frank. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Good. Before we get, because we got lots of Eagles, because there's NFC East breaking news this morning.
Yeah.
Some random reason on this show, random topics come up. And some reason, what our first cars were when we were growing up came up. What was Martin Frank's first car when he was a young Martin Frank driving around?
It was a 1987 Ford Escort.
There you go, Ford Escort. There you go. It seems like there's a lot of Fords in the conversation as their first cars.
Yeah, well, it stands for Fix or Repair Daily, so I definitely had that issue.
I remember my dad telling me that like 30 years ago, that line all the time. So I like that. So anyway, we got lots going on, obviously, with the Eagles. Rookie minicamp was this past weekend, but there was breaking NFC East news. George Pickens got traded to the Dallas Cowboys from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Before the full trade details when I went live 30 minutes ago weren't released, just a rumor of about a third-round pick. Before we talk about the Cowboys and the Steelers part of it, what do you think this means or does for the Eagles? Obviously, the Eagles have two great cornerbacks right now in that secondary. Do you think this sways any power in the NFC East?
It definitely helps the Cowboys, but they have like so many holes like all around their roster that it'll help. Obviously Dak Prescott will be back. He missed most of last year with his hamstring issue. But they really don't have much of a running game. I think Miles Sanders is one of their backs, and the guy from Denver, Javon Williams. So, they're definitely better. They drafted a lot on the offensive line, so that should probably improve as well. But they're going to have to deal with the Eagles offense, which is going to be, which I think can still outscore the Cowboys. So I don't think it'll make a whole lot of difference in the NFC East hierarchy. I mean, the Commanders are obviously better as well. They traded for Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle. And they re-signed most of their guys. But I still think the Eagles are the team to beat. I think it's the Eagles in Washington, and then maybe Dallas a step below that, and then the Giants below that. So I don't think much has changed at all in the NFC East.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've pretty much put the picture. I think all teams in the NFC East got better, outside of the Eagles as well. Yeah. But I don't think any of them got better enough to, in theory, be projected to be better than the Eagles. I mean, once the season starts, anything can happen, but it got tighter, I think is the way to describe the NFC East.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. I mean, if you were to ask me right now, are the Eagles a better team than the team that won the Super Bowl, I'd say probably not, but they're not much worse. Like, maybe 95% of what that team was at this point. But they have the potential to be better, if the young guys develop quickly enough. So I think Washington got better. I think Dallas got better. The Giants obviously couldn't get much worse. So, I think, like you said, it's a little bit closer than it was, but I still think the Eagles are above all the other teams in the division.
Obviously you mentioned Deebo Samuel as well, coming to the NFC East, and, Russell Wilson slightly maybe improving that Giants quarterback room, making them a little bit better. Obviously the Eagles lost Darius Slay. They traded away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. We draft Drew Makuba, but we also are most likely inserting Keely Ringo in that starting cornerback position. Do you think that the secondary as a whole still has any additions that need to be made, or are you confident at this point? You saw Drew on Friday at rookie minicamp. Are you confident in him and Keely Ringo in stepping in and filling these roles that are opening up?
Yeah, actually, I do think they might still go out and get somebody. I mean, if Justin Simmons, like, he's often the guy who's mentioned with the Eagles, and I think he would make a great addition, being a veteran, a guy who can step in right away and play safety. But I think the way you have to look at the Eagles secondary is, Vic Fangio's thing is to have the best 5 guys on the field, no matter what position they play. So, I mean, so it's not necessarily like Keely Ringo competing for a starting job with, the other cornerbacks. It's also him competing for a starting job with safety Sidney Brown, with, Makuba if he's at safety or if he's at nickel. And if Makuba's at nickel, maybe DeJean is playing outside cornerback. So, like, it's whoever those best 5 guys are. So I can see a scenario, for example, where, the outside corners are Quinion and DeJean. Kuba's the nickel. Maybe either Sidney Brown or Justin Simmons are next to Reed Blankenship at safety. Or if Keely Ringo has a great camp and proves that he can be the guy at the other cornerback, maybe then the competition is Makuba and Sidney Brown at safety, and DeJean staying where he is at nickel. So, the thing about the Eagles secondary is, like, so many guys can play so many different spots that, they're interchangeable, and it's a matter of finding the best 5 guys. So, maybe they're not happy. It turns out in training camp they're not happy with, how Sidney Brown or Makuba, if they're ready to play right away. So maybe they go out and get a Justin Simmons, and, they make adjustments otherwhere. So I could see, it's basically whatever their best 5 guys are, those are the 5 guys who are going to play.
I think it makes some interesting points. Now, while I'm I like Cooper DeJean in the slot. I think Cooper DeJean, proved to be a very, very great slot, but he's also the second best cornerback on this team. I kind of feel like outside of Quinion Mitchell and Reed Blankenship, the rest of the secondary isn't cornerbacks and safeties. It's just the secondary. And you see that not just there. You see that on the line, at linebacker, everywhere on this defense. It's what Vic Fangio wants. It's almost like positionless football to an extent on this defense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of the case with the first-round pick, Jihaad Campbell. I mean, we're asking him, like, are you more comfortable at inside linebacker? Are you more comfortable at edge rusher? And how he's like, no, he's wherever, wherever they need him. And that's kind of like how Zach Bond was. I mean, obviously they used him mostly at inside linebacker, but they also lined him up every now and then as an edge rusher. And if, Jihaad Campbell is good enough to be like in the edge rusher rotation, then that's where he's going to be. But also, if they need him to play inside linebacker, that's where he's going to be as well. And it's very possible. I mean, I don't know if Nakobe Dean's going to be ready for the start of the season. But even if he is, maybe Jihaad Campbell is better than Nakobe Dean, and maybe that's where he ends up playing. It just, like we were talking about in the secondary, it's getting your best guys on the field, and the Eagles have a lot of guys who can do like a lot of things, and they're interchangeable, and that helps them a lot. I think that makes them hard to play against because you don't know where the pressure is going to be coming from. If it's the front 7 or in the secondary, you're not exactly sure who's going to be lining up against your best wide receiver. So there are a lot of different things the Eagles can do on defense, which makes it kind of exciting.
What's the feeling you're getting out of that rookie minicamp with Jihaad Campbell and his shoulder injury? Obviously, he didn't practice. He was there stretching. The Eagles have really put no timetable on him at all on returning. Do you expect them back by any OTAs or by training camp, or is this going to be a lingering thing that maybe we don't get an answer till August?
Yeah, I think the last thing you said, it might not be until like, early August. Typically when, you draft a guy who's coming off an injury and we're asking, like, oh, you think you'll be ready by training camp? Like, oh yeah, definitely, sure, I'll be ready by training camp. That wasn't really the answer we were getting from the Eagles or Campbell. Jihaad Campbell said, well, it's a day by day thing. We'll just see how it goes. I'm not looking that far ahead, which kind of gives you the impression that, the OTAs are probably out, and training camp maybe. But, if he's back within the first couple of weeks of training camp, that probably won't send the Eagles back too far. I think he could still be ready for week 1. So, I mean, he had the shoulder surgery in March, and it's usually like a 3 to 4 month recovery. So that puts it right July, right?
Yeah, I use my fingers to count that off there. Yeah, April, May, June, July. Yeah, 4 months puts you at July. So
I mean, you look at like last year. Cooper DeJean hurt his hamstring and he missed like the first 3 weeks of training camp. Mm-hmm. Yes, he was ready to play week 1, but they didn't really trust him to be an every down guy until week 6 after the bye, after mm-hmm. 4 games. So I mean that's a possibility. They also drafted another linebacker, Smile Mondon, who, if he's good enough, maybe he's the guy playing week 1 instead of Nakobe. If Nakobe's
that's what I was going to ask you. Is there concern that, just like Cooper DeJean, not being able to earn the trust of Vic Fangio by missing so much time? Nakobe Dean, I don't expect Nakobe Dean to be back till week 4 or 5 at a minimum. Some people in the chat have said that kind of injury, in the past could be a full another year that Nakobe Dean could be out for, in theory. What are you concerned about the linebacker room to start the season? Because you got Zach Vaughn, you got Smile Mondon, and you got 2 injured players right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Like, I mean, a lot of it depends on if Campbell's ready for the start of training camp or not. I think if he is, then, it's a natural progression for him to be the week 1 guy next to Zach Vaughn. If he's not, maybe, Smile Mondon, maybe Jeremiah Trotter Jr., maybe those are the guys, starting week 1, and, you kind of patch it up as you can. And it's a long season. I mean, they drafted Campbell for the long haul. So if he's missing like the first 2 or 3 games, hypothetically, they're going to get, eventually he's going to be 100% healthy and they're going to have him for, the vast majority of the season, whether or not he's ready week 1 or not. So I think that's kind of how they're looking at it right now. They can patch it if Nakobe's not ready with what they have, and, and then wait for Campbell to be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. They obviously added a lot of late depth and undrafted free agent depth in the draft. And, all those guys were on display at the rookie minicamp. And I've been reading a lot about Drew Kendall and Miles Hinton and Cam Williams, Holland Pierce, all these guys that were brought in that all have some pedigree, whether fathers played in the NFL. Holland Pierce obviously is a guy that could have gotten drafted in the 4th or 5th round. We got him after the draft. Thoughts on those guys adding depth? Because the 4 starters are locked on the offensive line. You got right guard, which obviously Tyler Steen is the current leader in the clubhouse, but he got beat out last year too. So, do any of these guys, or is there anybody on this team, you hear a couple people, some other names that could, start at right guard. Do any of these guys have a chance to, A, beat out Tyler Steen for that job, but B, provide really strong, confident week 1 depth on the offensive line?
I'd say yes to all that. I think they really like Drew Kendall a lot, and he's a guy they could put in that mix at right guard.
I wrote that down as a note here last week or earlier this week. Somebody wrote that in an article this past week. So
I think I've mentioned it. I think others have as well. When he was, we were asking him this at minicamp, like, they've already talked to him about possibly playing guard. And they also traded for Kenyon Green in the Gardner Johnson trade. He came over from Houston. He was a 1st-round pick in 2022. Granted, he's been pretty bad, but, you throw a 1st-round guy You throw a first round guy into that, potentially, I mean, it could be a three-way battle, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, between Tyler Steen, Kenyon Green, and Drew Kendall. If he can do it, they, obviously made it work with Cam Jurgens in 2023, when they didn't have a right guard, and, they converted Mekhi Becton, a guy who'd been a tackle all his life, to right guard. So I think, yeah, Tyler Steen is probably the leader in the clubhouse right now, but I don't think they're definitely sold on him as being the guy. So, I mean, it could be anybody. And as far as the other two guys, Miles Hinton and Cameron Williams, I mean, those guys are depth at tackle. They also signed Kendall Lamb in free agency, who's kind of I think they see him as the Fred Johnson swing tackle main backup guy. They have Matt Pryor, who guy they originally drafted in 2018, who started pretty much. He's also started at guard too, so maybe he's in the mix at right guard.
True.
So they do have depth on the offensive line, and obviously the Eagles always look to add depth whenever they can. Expose a guy to not only Jeff Stoutland, but Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, and the culture they have. I mean, those guys, could get pretty good. And I think they'll be okay on the offensive line. And that right guard competition, like I said, is going to be pretty intense. And it could be a three-way competition all throughout training camp. So
I kind of feel like that's the biggest competition there is. I mean, obviously we talked about the secondary where it's positionless, but right guard's the only real true starting position, major competition that's available, to really look forward to, where, we just, there's no rhyme or reason or no way to predict what's going to happen there at this point.
Yeah, it's way too early. But I would think, a guy like I mentioned, Kenyon Green, who has kind of been a disappointment since he's been a first round pick, but you put him in that culture and he's playing next to Cam Jurgens and Lane Johnson. I mean, maybe that kind of jumpstarts his career, and it's also the last year of his contract, so he's got a lot of incentive to play well. I mean, obviously, you saw what happened to Becton. He turned 1 year at right guard into a 2-year, $20 million deal. So, there's a lot on the line for him as well. I think it's going to be a really, really good battle all camp long. And, yeah, that's on the offense. I mean, that's probably the only real competition, unless, at tight end, if you consider Dallas Goedert not coming back.
Well, there you go. You just queued me up for a question there. I wasn't going to go there. I was going to avoid it because it's so over talked about. But Dallas Goedert is still in that unknown. You're around this team a lot. You cover this team for a long time. Yeah. What's your gut feeling say about this Dallas Goedert situation? I don't see anything happen until June 1st with the Dallas Goedert situation. Personally.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it probably goes into training camp. I mean, I think it could be a situation where, let's say there's another team out there that has playoff aspirations, and let's say their tight end gets hurt in training camp, and they're like, oh, man, he can, we need to make a deal. A guy like Dallas Goedert can put us over the top. I could see that kind of situation. Or, I mean, if Dallas Goedert stays, I think they would, it would have to be a situation where they rework his contract so that, next year lowers his salary cap hit and everything like that, because it gets pretty outrageous, which is why, they're talking about not having him on the team at all, because they want to save their money for the young and up-and-coming guys getting their second contract. Like Jalen Carter is going to cost a ton when he gets his second contract. So, I think if they can rework Goddard's contract so it's much more team friendly, then fine. But obviously, Goddard, wants to make as much money as he can.
I kind of feel like it's playing out a lot like Josh Sweat last offseason.
Yeah,
where he was in a similar situation. He wasn't cut per se, but he was allowed to explore options. Realized there was no market for him. Came back on a cheaper incentive deal, and then got paid in the next offseason. Dallas Goedert is still young enough where if that's the way it plays out, maybe he comes back here on an incentive-laden deal, stays healthy, and then goes and gets paid. I mean, George Kittle just got a big contract. I mean, not Dallas Goedert's level, but he's a couple years older than Dallas Goedert, and he's got paid. So it's not like Dallas Goedert, if he could prove to stay healthy, can't get a big contract somewhere else next year.
Yeah, I mean that's all possible. I mean, and then there's also the situation that maybe Goddard thinks that at some point, the Eagles will be able to trade him, and he won't have to take a pay cut, and maybe then, you know, he gets his new contract after that, and I mean, it could be like a Zach Ertz situation where maybe he's still on the team like throughout most of training camp and into the season, and then at the trade deadline something happens. I mean, there are any number of situations, but and Goddard's a good enough guy where he's not going to like create waves if anything is not resolved going into the season. I think he's smart enough. I think the Eagles are professional enough where they're going to do what's best for the Eagles and also what's best for Dallas Goedert. So figure something out. But
the Dallas Goedert situation is directly linked to, obviously, like you said, a lot of guys that got to get paid still, a lot of young guys. Jalen Carter's obviously the name that everybody's talking about, but there's a lot of other guys on the last year of their deals or also due for extensions next year, like Nolan Smith. You got Reed Blankenship, Nakobe Dean. You got a lot of guys out there. Are there any Eagles favorites, any players that everybody loves on this team? Maybe you think that won't be able to get a deal done and that we won't see after this year on this team? Or is pretty much everybody, all the young guys, going to get some form of an extension?
I think Nolan Smith for sure will get an extension as both him and Carter's first round picks. Yeah. Next year they could pick up the 5th-year option. You can throw Jordan Davis into that mix. I mean, yes, they picked up his 5th-year option, but after
were you okay with them picking up his 5th-year option? Do you think that was the right move?
Yeah, definitely. Because if you look at it, like Milton Williams signed a 4-year deal for up to $104 million, which is like $26 million a year. Jordan Davis' 5th-year option for 2026 is half of that, so it's technically a bargain. I think in free agency, once Jordan Davis gets there, he's going to get a lot more money than the Eagles are willing to pay, but at least they have him for 2 more years. I would be surprised if, Nakobe Dean might not be a guy who's back. They might, they already paid one linebacker in Zach Bond. They drafted 2 other guys in Jihaad Campbell and Smile Mondon. And they also
there's one other. Oh, sorry. I've gotten like 3 comments already that we keep forgetting about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is on this team as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to forget about him. But, yeah, I mean, he played, like he got into some games last year, and he played pretty well. So I would think Nakobe Dean might not be back. I can't see them breaking the bank for him, if they already paid Zach Bond, for example. And, I can't see them paying 2 linebackers. As strange as it is to see them paying 1, they're certainly not going to pay 2. And then Blankenship is another guy. It depends what his market is. I mean, if you remember a couple of years ago, they had a guy, Marcus Epps, who's decent, not great or anything, and he got paid by the Raiders. So I could see a situation where Blankenship might not be back. I mean, like I said, they have Sidney Brown. They just drafted Drew Makuba. So, like, those guys are probably the future at that position if they prove that they're, good enough to take over.
I like that Marcus Epps comparison there, because Reed Blankenship's a weird, interesting guy to me. I think he's a good player, but I think some Eagles fans overvalue what he's really capable of doing out there. And he hasn't been extended yet. And that, to me, is concerning that maybe he's not in the future plans.
It's possible. I mean, like I said, it depends on how these other 2 guys shake out. I mean, Sidney Brown's never really proven that he can, be, starting safety in the NFL yet. So this is obviously a huge year for him if he can. And then obviously they like Makuba enough because they drafted him in the 2nd round. I mean, those 2 could be the safeties going forward, and maybe Blankenship gets to free agency and somebody's going to pay him. I mean, that's the thing with like a lot of these guys. It's not like the Eagles don't want to keep him. I mean, yes, they would love to keep Reed Blankenship. They would love to keep Nakobe Dean, just like, Milton Williams. These are guys they drafted, or in Blankenship's case, signed as undrafted, but there are teams out there who will pay a lot more than the Eagles are willing to pay. And obviously the Eagles have to consider the other guys that they definitely want to keep, like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, guys like that. So, yeah.
And then a year or 2 later, then you're going to have Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean up. You can only keep so many. Who's going to – I mean, we lost Darius Slay. We lost Brandon Graham. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, emotional and captain leaders of this defense. Reed Blankenship, if he's not in the future plans, I don't know if he could step up to be the leader on this defense. Who are going to replace these key leaders on defense this year? Not sure Jalen Carter's even mature enough to be that guy. He might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to be. There isn't, you still have Lane Johnson. He's like the only holdover from, I think he's like 2013 he got drafted. Mm-hmm. And then the next most tenured guy is Jake Elliott, who was signed in 2017. So, yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is a pretty good leader. I mean, despite what some people might think. Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith.
They're all on the offense side, though. Who's leading the defense?
Offensive line? Yeah, but I mean, obviously Jalen Carter, like you said, is he mature enough to be a leader? Well, he might just have to be. Zach Bond, he's a veteran. He knows what it takes. And Quinyon, he's a quiet guy, but he leads by example. Cooper DeJean, another guy who can lead by example. It's just going to be different. I mean, they don't have the Jason Kelce's anymore. They don't have the BGs, and they don't have guys like that. But they do have a lot of guys with that kind of potential to be leaders. So we'll see what happens.
All right. We're talking to Martin Frank here, Delaware News Journal, guys, DelawareOnline.com. Make sure you check out his work. Real quick, before I let you go, I'm sure you watched some of that Phillies game last night.
Yeah.
What is up? I mean, I totally forgot that the Rays weren't playing at the Rays Stadium until I turned the game on last night. I'm like, where the hell are they playing? Dude, did you get caught off guard by how it looked when you I was just like, what am I watching here last night?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then I think in a couple weeks or something, they play the A's out in Sacramento, which is another minor league stadium, where I think you have to walk through the outfield to get to the clubhouse, back in the old days. The polo grounds and stuff like that. Yeah, it's strange playing in a spring training facility. But then again, for the Rays, it probably helps because the 10,000 fans there looks like it's, pretty loud and crazy, as opposed to the 10,000 they usually get in their big dome where it's pretty cavernous and everything. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, I can't imagine that major league ball players who are used to the best conditions and everything, playing in basically it's a single A stadium. I mean, I know they spruce it up for the Yankees when they're there for spring training, but it's not what they're used to for sure.
So what's on the agenda for a beat reporter of the Eagles at this point? Minicamp's over. We got 4 weeks till the OTAs start. Drafts. This is the dead part. And I was talking to another guy. I'm trying to line up for a guest. I'm like, May and June for me. That's when I got to get all the guests on because it's a dead part of football. What does someone like you do during this time frame?
Well, actually, the schedule is coming out next week. Yeah, so there's still
that provides a week worth of content like that.
Absolutely. It's almost like the start of free agency and everything. It's really incredible. The Eagles know who they're playing. Every team knows who they're playing, but yet there's so much intrigue onto who's going to be the first game, obviously, because the Eagles, are playing that Thursday night game, leading into the opening weekend and stuff. So everyone's like, oh, who are the Eagles going to play and stuff like that. And then
who do you want the Eagles to play week 1 then? That's the question.
I think the Detroit Lions would be a natural.
I agree.
That could have been the NFC Championship game last year if the Lions hadn't choked. And if the Eagles had to go to Detroit for that game, that could have been a tough one. But so yeah, I think the Lions would be a natural for that. I mean, there's also all these stories about predicting what the schedule's going to look like. Are they going to have it's possible they could play Thanksgiving in Dallas, or Kansas City wants to host a Christmas game every year. That could be the Eagles. So many intriguing type of matchups and stuff like that. So, they'll get their full 6 primetime games too. So won't be too many 1:00 Sunday games.
Definitely not. Well, Thank you very much for taking some time out this morning to come on and jump on and talk Eagles with us. Greatly appreciated. And have a great week of rest before the schedule release next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And before you know it, it's training camp and the season's starting. And there's really no time.
Football's a 365 day a year sport now, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when your team goes to the Super Bowl. I mean, there's no downtime, but
There's
it's
no
fun
downtime. I
because
mean, you could be a Cowboys beat reporter and miss the playoffs most of the time.
yeah,
That could be
exactly. I
your
mean,
job.
I'm good friends with the guy who covers the Giants, and like he's been doing mock drafts. He started doing mock drafts like the second week of January, so at least I didn't have to do that.
I love it. Thank you very much, Martin, for your time today.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
Yeah, thanks, Phil, for having me. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. Guys, that was Martin Frank right there on the I Have No Sponsor Hotline. If you haven't already, please like and share and subscribe to the channel, guys. Would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Always great stuff from Martin Frank. I see a lot of comments were missed. A lot of things were missed in the chat here. I will try to hit a couple of these comments and page back through them all here. Couldn't get to ask too many of these questions with our limited time with Martin there. Which Eagles player did you want to see step up? That's an interesting question. We'll save that for next time. Let's see here. Some of these questions, comments. Being versatile future proofs your injury status. Yes, I like that. Rick saying that the recovery time for Jihaad Campbell is a little longer than some of us think. At 8 months, shoulders are very tricky. Absolutely. And I am sorry, Anthony, for getting about Jeremiah Trotter Jr.'s name. I apologize for that, of course. Hopefully, DeJean is not going to be returning any kicks. Yeah, I'm against that. Have been since day one. I don't expect much at all from Campbell until late in the season. That's a tough one right there. That's a tough one, right there. It definitely is. I want to see a healthy Eagles versus a healthy Lions. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think we missed a potentially fantastic championship game last year. Nooms, by not having the Eagles versus the Lions. Yeah. Rays playing at Steinbrenner Field was not on my bingo card. Look, somebody asked before, where was the question here? They still haven't fixed it. From what I heard, Duck, they said something on the telecast last night, and I was half watching, half not at that moment, that the new roof for the Rays Stadium had to be built in Germany. And then for some reason, it went from Germany to China. And now from China to here. So there's a delay in the construction and then the shipping of this new roof. I just don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but it was just weird watching it. Like, they still have minor league camera angles set up. They still have, it's just weird. And everybody's talking about every home run that was hit, whether it be a home run in a major league park or not. It was interesting last night. But the Phillies did win last night. Let's, guys, you're watching Train the AM right here on the ST Sports Network. We spent a lot of time talking Eagles there with Martin Frank, and obviously talking the trade of George Pickens to the Cowboys. But we can also spend some time talking about, last night's Phillies game, winning 8-4 to the Rays. Zach Wheeler with another 7 strong innings, giving up 2 runs last night. There must be a tariff on roofs or something like that. I have no idea. It's just comical. Like, I turned it on and I thought I put the wrong game on. Like, I thought the TV said I was clicking on the Phillies game, but I'm like, did I turn on like the Iron Pigs or something like that? Like, it was ridiculous. Yeah, like I honestly, Adam, totally forgot. 1,000% totally forgot about what was going on with the Rays and their stadium. Obviously, the hurricane destroyed that stadium, and we knew that. Just didn't realize how long it was going to take, obviously, to fix it. I know there was talk about them originally, before they chose Steinbrenner Stadium down there. There was talk about them putting the Rays in the Clearwater Thrashers, the Phillies minor league complex as well, which would have been cool too. The Phillies get a home game in Tampa like that. That would have been pretty cool. It means that it was designed in Germany and being built in China to be delivered and built on site from the Chinese CM parts. I don't know what I mean. It's just weird and crazy. And I'm just surprised. I'm utterly surprised, Duck, that there weren't more political jokes, we'll just say, being made on Twitter last night about the roof for the stadium that we're waiting on. When you hear the announcers say that it's being built one place, shipped to another place, and then coming here from China, that's just opening the door for people to get their political opinions out there on their burner accounts. And I didn't see any of it last night. I was kind of shocked about that. Yeah, we can't make a roof. We don't have the engineering or developmental capability of making roofs, supposedly. Or whoever the Rays owner is just one cheap SOB and wanted to get it done overseas. Who knows? Whatever. It sucks. It was weird. But anyway, the Phillies game last night is weird to me. The Phillies game last night, you had another solid performance from Zach Wheeler. Did give up his 8th home run. He's given up a home run in every game he started this year. But anyway, 7 strong innings, only 2 runs given up. Actually only pitched like 85, 86 pitches last night. You had the meat of your Phillies order. Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Scharber, Nick Castellanos all get 2 or 3 hits last night. You had Alec Bohm hit his first home run and get 2 more hits last night. But then the bullpen came in. We were up 7-2. The bullpen goes 2 innings, gives up 1 run in each inning. And this is the problem. The Rays are a below-average team at this point. They're maybe average at best. Most likely below average. And we're up 7-2 after 7 innings. And in my mind, I'm thinking, should they send Zach Wheeler out for the 8th inning? He only had 80, hold on, let me pull the box score back up here. 84 pitches. And they pulled him after the 7th inning. And in my mind, I'm like, that's good. You don't have to push him. You got a 7-2 lead, whatever. On the other side, you've got the brain cells that are saying that this Phillies bullpen, a 7-2 lead isn't good enough. And I'm torn. Like every time I want to be hooked back into this Phillies team, then a starting pitcher comes out and the bullpen goes in. And to me, that's scary. To me, that's a problem. To me, no lead is safe with this bullpen. And yeah, it's a problem. You can't make jokes like that anymore because yeah, that's true. That's true. And burner accounts, and this and that, and everybody hides behind their faceless, spotless accounts and stuff. The home run to right center field at 357 would not have been. Which home run was that? That wasn't the Bohm home run, was it? They don't put on ESPN home run distances. Which home run? That wasn't the Bohm one because I saw the Bohm home run was a home run in 7 different ballparks. Luke Arcani put that out there last night. I don't know if they say anything about the other home runs. The Rays don't have the fan base to support a team, and it got worse when the World Series heydays were over. Yeah, the Rays are the perfect team if you want to consider a team, that needs to change or leave or be in a different ballpark or different city. It's definitely a team that could afford to move to a different franchise. Oh, it was the Rays home run. Gotcha. I couldn't remember which one you were talking about there. Kind of forgot the Rays even hit a home run last night. The one off of Zach Wheeler. But are you concerned that Zach Wheeler's giving up home runs at a higher rate than even Aaron Nola at this point? Do you need the Phillies to go undefeated from here on in to have any confidence? No, I don't. But again, Rick, I think my stance is pretty clear. That I think this team wins a lot of baseball games. I think right now there are holes on this team that scare me big picture, which big picture means the playoffs. That this team will win a lot of baseball games based off of their talent alone. But come October, that bullpen is going to be a problem. It is. It's the time of the show every Wednesday where we shamelessly plug Philly Press Box Radio. Yes, tonight, 7 p.m. WIP's own Jody McDonald will be on the show. And the best singer-songwriter you haven't heard of, Willie Nile. Willie opens for the Hooters 517 at the Met. Okay, there you go. I honestly, when I made you the graphic, I had no idea who Willie Nile is. I wanted to look, didn't have time to look, but he opens for the Hooters. There you go. I love singer-songwriters like that. Fantastic show, WIP's Jody McDonald. Another one. He's one of the few legendary sports talk guys that are still actually out there working right now, Chet. One of the legendary guys that haven't been forced into retirement yet at this point. But, guys, check out Pressbox Radio, 7 p.m. tonight, right here on STT Sports Network. Philadelphia should have 2 baseball teams. If Chicago, New York, and LA can handle it, so can we. It's funny you say this, Rick, because I've thought about this before because of the team, other cities that have 2. But I don't want 2 Philly baseball teams. I don't like any city having 2 of the same. I don't like the Giants and Jets in the same city. There's too many cities that could deserve a sports team, and you got 2 in certain sports in certain cities. I'm not being negative. I'm very happy that the Phillies won last night. I think the Phillies are going to win 4 out of 6 in this 6-game road trip. And I think that's a successful road trip. The Phillies are now 2 games behind the Mets. I think they're closing the gap there with the Mets very well. The Braves are making a little bit of a comeback, a little bit of a push. But I'm very confident that the Phillies are going to win 92 to 95 games this year. I think I predicted 92, so I'll stick to 92. I just don't know how I could be super positive when this bullpen like they're not even trying to make any adjustments yet to this bullpen. And I actually feel bad for Rob Thompson at this point. What decision do you make going into the 8th inning? Do you pull Zach Wheeler at 84 pitches because he's gotten 7 innings, give him an easy 5 runs is nothing? Or do you push him because you know you have no confidence in your bullpen? What do? Who do you go with? It's a tough call. And I said this yesterday about Alvarado. I hate Alvarado going wraparound innings. But what are your other options at this point? This is on Dave Dombrowski. This is on Dave Dombrowski needing to be a more aggressive general manager. Joseph Anthony Aloysius McDonald Jr. You even got his confirmation name in there. You even got his confirmation name. The Willie Nile. The Willie Nile. I don't know what that means, but okay. I wish we had 2 baseball teams. The A's should come home. A's are actually playing good baseball right now. We tried it, and Philly gravitated toward Connie Mack, I think. Phillies did add a bullpen arm a few days ago. I'm still not sure. I know you brought this up before, Rick. I mean, yeah, he's got experience, but he was he was traded for and sent right to AAA. Why wasn't he in the majors before? Why does he need to, I don't know. Is that really going to be a move that saves the season? I don't know. It's not a closer. It's not a high leverage guy. A's went to Kansas City. I've hated that town ever since. I have a very regular battle going on with my man Grant. He's a friend of mine. He's from Kansas City, lives in Kansas City, and we go back and forth all the time on George Brett versus Mike Schmidt. Whenever we don't talk for a couple of weeks, I just say George Brett sucks, or he'll just text me and say George Brett is greater than Mike Schmidt, and then the conversation picks right up there. And then we say how you do. We say hello to each other by bashing George Brett and Mike Schmidt. Then we ask how our lives and families are when we text each other. He had solid numbers. Then why is he in AAA? That's all. I'm asking. I don't know. But again, we don't need a solid numbers guy. We need some elite high leverage guys because we don't have much on the top end of our bullpen. Even Matt Strahm looks a little shaky from time to time this year. Maybe it's because he got injured and he didn't have a full training camp, but we're 35 games into the season now. So I don't know. A's only in KC and year or two, yeah. Mike Schmidt never got him. Mike Schmidt's greater than George Brett. I mean, there's no lie or argument to be made there. Schmidt corked his bat. What? I don't know anything about that. Yeah. Oh. See, I like how it looks like you did it accidentally, but you might have done that purposely. I will say George Brett's tirade there was great. Adam, I don't think so. I never even put those two takes together, but probably not. But maybe. No clue. Never thought of it. Never asked it. I don't know on that one, Adam. But thank you for watching the interview. I love Martin Frank. Martin Frank's one of those. Martin Frank's in that group. Martin Frank, Chris Franklin, who does more general stuff now. Ed Kratz, who I'll work on getting on next week. They're my go-to beat reporters for the Eagles, those 3 guys right there. Strom said it was humid after yesterday. That probably had a bit to do with it, but he still pitched solid. It's okay. See, the thing is, Matt Strom should be, how do I describe this? Matt Strom right now is our high leverage, sometimes closer. He's one of our top 2 arms in our bullpen, Rick. I don't know if Matt Strom should be a top 2 arm in a bullpen. He's a really good pitcher, but he's not an elite pitcher. But he's put in a position to pitch in elite situations, and it concerns me. Look, again, they're going to win a lot of baseball games. It only matters what happens in October. That's it. And they need to be using this time now in May and in June to fix these issues so that when October comes, we're more confident in them, that they're more confident in themselves. That's it. I know Matt Strahm was an all-star last year, and Matt Strahm came out of nowhere. Alec Bohm was an all-star last year. There were 8 Phillies all-stars last year. They're not going to have 8 all-stars this year, the Phillies. All right? What does that tell you? They had a lot of first-time all-stars last year that aren't going to be all-stars this year. Matt Strahm isn't going to be an all-star. Alec Bohm is not going to be an all-star. Christopher Sanchez not going to be an all-star this year. There's a lot of guys that are. What's my prediction? Let me pull it up. Let me pull up the full pitching matchup here. Obviously, no, we got Christopher Sanchez going tonight against Shane Baz, who's got a 3.86 ERA, right-handed pitcher, solid whip this year. Strikes out a good amount of batters. Doesn't walk a ton of batters. Yeah. Look, Phillies are favored in the game, Adam. I think let me look at it this way. Let me go to the Phillies schedule and see who starts the other game of this series. I see them taking 2 out of 3. You got Luzardo going in the next game too. Oh no, they might be able to sweep the Rays here. It would be great if they did. You can get tickets to tonight's game on ESPN. They're linked to their ticket site for $11. If anyone wants to fly down to Florida today, you could probably hop on a flight by like 3, get down there in time. Tickets are for $11. Nola is not listed as the pitcher. Nola's not going until the Friday against Cleveland. So I would say a victory tonight. I would like to see the offense continue to build on last night. I would like to see, Castellanos and Bohm and Harper mainly continue to get hot again. They're my things, and I'll give you a prediction. I'll say 6-3 Phillies win tonight. 6-3 Phillies win. Strahm should be more of a Durbin role and less of a Madsen role, but he's left-handed, so play. Yeah, I think that's a very, very, very fair way to describe what I think of Matt Strahm. Okay, he's not Ryan Madsen. He's J.C. Romero. He's Chad Durbin. I remember Chad Durbin. I love Chad Durbin. Tells me if the Phillies win the World Series. I mean, maybe they do, but they've got to make adjustments and changes. Sanchez and Baez have almost the exact same. It really, when I was looking at the pitching matchup in detail like that, I was like, damn, they're close. 4 innings difference. The whip is really big, but hits 2 different, K's 2 different, 1 different in walk, both giving up 4 home runs, same exact record. The whip's the only thing that's a big difference, 134, 117. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how close their numbers are, Rick. It's like eerily similar. 7-3 Adam says, I'll say 6-3 just to be different. I went to the Eagles Tampa Bay game and we walked right by Steinbrenner Field. Tampa's a great area. I would love to move down to the Tampa region, not Tampa itself, but Clearwater, Tampa, Dunedin, anywhere along there. Clearwater, obviously. Strahm way better than Durbin and Romero. If he was in their roles, he's way better than them. In his role now as, say, the Ryan Madsen of this team, he's not better than Madsen. Like, he's a better version of Chad Durbin and J.C. Romero. What was the other lefty? After Romero, who was the next one that came in? Came up from the minors or we brought in. But anyway, he's a much better version of Durbin and Romero. He could be elite in a Durbin-Romero situation. But in the situation he's put in, where he's the 8th inning guy, sometimes the closer, I don't think he's elite, and I think that's the problem. Yeah, 4-3, that works too. That means we'll be sweating out a bullpen moment or two tonight, Rick. It is what it is. I think it's time that the Phillies, whoever this other guy is that they traded for, I can't remember his name. I think it's time for the Phillies to bring him up right now and send a Ryan Kirkgreen back to AAA for a little while to work out the kinks. How Rob Thompson can keep trotting him out there. I mean, keeps trotting out Corky Romano as well and some other guys, but Ryan Kirkgreen's still a young piece that needs some development. It's time for, them to send Kirkgreen down. Daniel Robert, yeah. And sometimes I need reminders. My brain, all the cylinders aren't always turning. Sometimes I need a little oil in there. It's time for them to send Ryan Kirkgreen down now while he's still young enough and he's not broken completely, so that they can get him back on track. Because I still feel like Ryan Kirkgreen in a year or two can be the closer of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's got the curve or the slider. He's got the fastball. He's got the the mental makeup to be a closer, but he's broken right now. And they need to make some kind of adjustments to fix that. They really do. Strom is as good, if not better than Madsen. Prime Madsen, 07, 08, 09. I mean, Ryan Madsen was pretty damn elite there for several years. Strom was really elite last year in a certain role. I don't know if he is big picture. Yeah, I do need some oil like Tim, man. You just squirt it in the ear. I'll just shake my head around. We'll get some oil coated all throughout it. It's what I need. I definitely. Yes, I know the stats, but sometimes stats don't tell the whole story. Sometimes the eye test is needed. And the eye test tells me he's just not what he was last year. Last year, he was an all-star. He's not making the all-star this year. And he's not at that level. I'm trying to pull up a game log, so to speak, on him. If I can get a little bit more of an idea. Obviously gave up a run last night. On Sunday, he came in and he had a solid, clean inning. But then Friday, not so clean. A walk, no hit. There it is. I'm trying to look. 2 runs against the Cubs back in late October. Yeah, he's just got some really good and some really bad moments this year. He's good. He is what he is. Maybe if he located his fastball better, he doesn't. At 92, 93, that gets popped. Overachieving relief pitcher. I agree with. I'm thinking you're talking about Strom, right? Or you're talking about Kirkgreen as overachieving. Because Kirkgreen's fastball is higher than that. So you got to be talking about Strom. Overachieving relief pitchers, you got to know, what they are. The eye test says the Phillies team isn't a real contender. I think they're a contender in the sense where they're going to make the playoffs. My man on Twitter, I forget which one it was, Greg something, always tells me that they're not going to make the playoffs at all. And I always tell him he's wrong, that they're going to make the playoffs. It's, do they have the cojones to fix their problems and win in October? Yeah. I think it's baseless, but we're going to agree to disagree until October on this, Rick. And we're going to continue to battle on this. It's May 7th right now. When do the playoffs start? 5 months from now. We're going to be disagreeing on this for the next 5 months, Rick. And then come October, either you'll be right or I'll be right. Plain and simple. Once Madsen upped his fastball in 08, it completely changed Madsen. That is true. Not everybody. A decent percentage, too, at this point. And the Phillies are in the playoff spot right now. They're in a wild card spot right now. And they're closing in on the Mets right now. What are they, only 2 games behind the Mets right now? Is what it is. As long as the Phillies keep taking care of business against teams that they're supposed to take care of business against, like the Rays this week, I would have liked to have seen them sweep the Nationals a few weeks ago, or last week, but they didn't. Whatever, but they've won what? Almost every single series they've played in this year. 8 straight series they've won. The Phillies are winning a lot of baseball games, and that's good. The eye test tells me they still need more. They still need a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, it's too early in the season, but the eye test tells me that the National League is very top-heavy, Rick. Does that make sense? Just as a whole, the top, I would make sure I get the right teams here. Obviously, the Mets and the Phillies, and then the entirety of the NFC West. The Dodgers, Padres, and Giants all have over 20 wins. The Cubs do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, Diamondbacks have 19 wins. The Brewers have 19 wins. Then you've got the Rockies. You've got the Pirates. You got the Cards, the Marlins, the Nationals. They're all your bad teams. Even the Braves. They started 1-8 or something like that, and they're 17-18. They're turning the corner. There's a lot of average to below average teams in the NL, but there's also some very top-heavy, very good teams in that. That NL West battle is going to be a fun battle to watch throughout the season. You got the Dodgers, but you've got the Padres and Giants right on their heels. And the Diamondbacks aren't a bad team either. We just saw them. But the Phillies winning most of their series during the season is not unusual. We'll take 2 out of 3 most of the time. Exactly. The whole point is I don't care if they win 110 games or 88 games. If they make the playoffs, it's all that matters. It's what happens once October starts. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Phillies have 0 chance against the Mets. They fold the second they see the Mets. We'll see. 8 of the Phillies' 20 wins are against teams with 20 or more wins. That's fine. I mean, we took care of business against the Dodgers last year in the regular season. What did we do in the playoffs? Braves turn the corner is on us. We allowed them. Yeah, that's true. Isn't that the last series we lost? Is the Braves series the last series we lost? It might have been. I don't even remember. I don't remember the order of the schedule outside the last 2 or 3 of them. But yeah, anyway, guys, we're coming up to the final 5. I want to shout out Martin Frank again, one of the best. Make sure you guys follow him on all social media platforms. Read his stuff on DelawareOnline.com and Delaware News Journal. He brought up an interesting. I love his comparison of Marcus Epps to Reed Blankenship, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more tomorrow. How about their losses? Whose losses? What? I always love and appreciate his time. Phillies are 2 games back of the Mets, and Diamondbacks bet them of the Mets. The Diamondbacks beat them last night. Gotcha. But yeah, I love to thank him because he's always so gracious, giving us 20 to 30 minutes once every couple of months to come on and talk on the show. Had a guest lineup for tomorrow. He had a reschedule for next week, so we will work on that for next week. But I'm going to see who I can get on. I actually missed text message. Nope. So far we're 0 on guests for tomorrow on this show. We'll see if I can find somebody else to jump on and talk tomorrow instead. But lining up for next week, Ryan Rothstein, who'll be making his second appearance. We'll get him to talk some Phillies. I'm talking with John Barchard, former WIPer, former radio guy, runs his own stuff now. Love John Barchard. We're going to get him on to talk the state of Philadelphia media along with the Eagles as well next week. So there are 2 guests lined up for next week, but Martin Frank obviously today was very appreciative of his time. We'll see if I can find anybody baseball related. Mark only can come on when he doesn't have work, so don't know when his next day off is. So, but I'll let him know, Adam. I'll let him know that people are asking for him. But guys, if you haven't already, like and share, subscribe, please. I greatly appreciate it. We definitely didn't get to 25 likes today. We didn't even get to 20 likes on this show today. Let's see here. We didn't gain any new subscribers. We're still sitting at 519. We only ended up with 14 likes on this video. Not good enough. 20 people voted on the poll, although 17% said no chance in hell. That could have been 20 people that should have hit like on this video right now, but didn't happen. Unfortunately, the Mets are just a better team than the Phillies right now. But last year at this time, the Phillies were better than the Mets. Yeah, I mean, there's swings in baseball. The Phillies can become a better team than the Mets. The Phillies can build my confidence if they go out and get an elite closer. Hell, even the offensively speaking, where I'm not confident in our bats, I've seen now through 35 games a slight tweak in some of their approach. Their on-base percentage, their walks, those kind of things. More often than not, Stott is in leadoff like he should be. It's that bullpen. It really is. Dave Dombrowski yesterday talking about Mick Abel and how he would have no hesitation calling up Mick Abel if there's an issue with the starting pitching. That's Dave Dombrowski hyping up the value, maybe, of Mick Abel. Dave Dombrowski needs to take Mick Abel and Otto Kemp and go out and get the best available closer, if that's what it takes. Get it done. Get it done. Now, I'd like to see center field fixed. I'd like to see, another bat on the bench, but it's the bullpen. It's the bullpen. I can't see that kind of a turnaround like last year, Mets and Phillies, with the bullpen we have. Thank you very much, Adam. Muchas gracias. Nice day out today. I know some people are going down. My man Josh is going down to the Truist Championship today to check out the course. Guys, if you missed last night's Fairway to Heaven, Truist Championship, formerly the Wells Fargo Championship, is in Philly at the Philadelphia Country Club. If you're going out there this weekend, I won't be, but if you're going out there, send me a message with any of the videos or pics you take. I'd love to see them. So I appreciate that, guys. But, yeah, we're going to wrap up the show there. What's tomorrow? What's on dock? More Eagles talk. We didn't get to the new Sixers-Flyers arena name. The Xfinity Mobile Arena is now what it is. We didn't talk Britton Covey to the Rams at all today. There are things on. We'll talk more about George Pickens, George Pickens to the Cowboys, what it means for the Eagles once I get more details. I want to dive into that Marcus Epps Blankenship. I like that. We'll see. We'll talk Phillies as well tomorrow, obviously. There's always lots to talk about every single morning right here. But, guys, it's most important you hit that like button, you hit that share button, and you subscribe. That is the most important thing, guys. So everybody have a fantastic Wednesday. Go Birds. Bubbles up.